Hello and welcome back. Let me back up just a bit so I can explain how we got here, because for those of us who have followed every twist and turn, context matters. Jocelyn has already been through so much, and when Cassius took her and held her captive, it felt like a nightmare straight out of the old Faison days, only sharper and more personal this time. I remember thinking at the time that the writers were tapping into that legacy of obsession and control that has always simmered beneath the surface in Port Charles, but they were doing it in a fresh way that felt different from the classic villain arcs I grew up with. Cassius did not just snatch someone and demand ransom. There was this calculated, almost methodical way he went about it, almost as if he had been planning every step for years. And now, with Carly suddenly vanishing, the whole situation has taken on an even darker, more urgent tone. I sat there staring at the screen when the report came in, and I actually said out loud to my empty living room, "Not Carly, not now." Because after everything, she has survived marriages that fell apart, businesses that nearly crumbled, and threats that would have broken most people, she deserves a moment of peace. Yet, here we are, and the missing persons alert has everyone scrambling. What really has me convinced that this storyline is headed somewhere explosive is the way Sidwell is starting to put the pieces together. He is convinced that Cassius is the one who has Carly now, right after what happened with Jocelyn. And I have to admit, that theory makes perfect sense when you look at the evidence piling up. Sidwell has always been the kind of character who sees patterns where others see chaos, and right now, he is connecting dots that the rest of the town has not even noticed yet. Think about it. Cassius already proved he could slip in and out of situations without leaving much of a trace when he grabbed Jocelyn, and the timing of Carly's disappearance feels too precise to be a coincidence. It is almost as if Cassius decided that taking one family member was not enough. He had to go after the heart of the family itself. I have my own little theory here, and it might be completely off base compared to where the writers are actually going, but I think this is Cassius's way of punishing the people who have stood in his way for so long. It is different from the original Faison plots I remember from the 80s and 90s, where the villain's motives were often about money or revenge in a straightforward way. This time, there is a deeper layer of obsession, almost like Cassius is rewriting his own family history by targeting the women who represent stability and strength in Port Charles. That kind of psychological depth is what keeps me coming back. It feels real even when the stakes are so high. And speaking of obsession, the new layers being added to these characters are proving to be some of the most compelling writing the show has given us in a while. Cassius is not just a kidnapper anymore. He is a man whose plans are literally exploding around him because his own fixation is spiraling out of control. You can see it in the way he moves, the way he speaks when he thinks no one is listening. The confidence is cracking. And what started as a calculated scheme is turning into something chaotic and unpredictable. I love how the show is letting us watch that unravel in real time instead of rushing to a quick resolution. It reminds me of those classic slow-burn villain arcs where you almost feel sorry for the bad guy for a split second before you remember how dangerous he truly is. Sidwell spotting the connection between the two abductions is the kind of detective work that makes me cheer for the supporting players who usually stay in the background. He is not flashy about it, but his quiet certainty that Cassius has Carly is building tension in every scene. I keep asking myself, will the others listen before it is too late? Or will Cassius's obsession push him to make one final, desperate move that changes everything? The answer feels just around the corner, and that anticipation is what makes General Hospital feel alive and urgent even after all these decades. One of the things I appreciate most about this current stretch is how it respects the history while still surprising longtime viewers like me. I have seen Carly face down mob bosses, survive explosions, and rebuild her life more times than I can count, yet this disappearance hits differently because it is tied so directly to her daughter's ordeal. It is almost as if the writers are saying that the past never really stays buried. The same forces that threatened Jocelyn are now reaching for Carly, and the family bond is being tested in ways we have not seen before. I remember when Carly first came to town, full of fire and secrets, and watching her evolve into the fierce protector she is today has been one of the great joys of following the show. So when Sidwell starts theorizing that Cassius might be holding her in the same place or using the same methods he used on Jocelyn, it sends a shiver down my spine. It is not just another kidnapping plot. It is a full-circle moment that ties the younger generation's dangers back to the veterans who have carried the show for years. And the way Cassius's carefully laid plans are starting to explode, literally and figuratively, feels like the payoff we have been waiting for. Every new clue, every whispered conversation, every worried glance between the characters adds another layer, and I find myself rewinding scenes just to catch the small details I might have missed the first time. What keeps me hopeful, even in the middle of all this suspense, is the knowledge that General Hospital has always been about resilience and the power of love to pull people through the darkest hours. Carly has a way of turning impossible situations around, and I have no doubt she is fighting with everything she has wherever she is right now. Sidwell's growing suspicion is the kind of ally she needs, someone who sees the pattern and refuses to let it slide. Meanwhile, the rest of the town is slowly waking up to the fact that something bigger is at play, and I can already picture the alliances forming, the confrontations building, and the emotional reunions that will make all the heartache worthwhile. It is the kind of storytelling that reminds me why I have stuck with this show through cast changes, writing shifts, and even a few storylines that did not quite land. This one lands, and it lands hard. The obsession driving Cassius is not just a villain's quirk. It is becoming the engine that could crack open secrets we did not even know existed, and I am here for every single second of it. I have to smile when I think about how far the show has come since the days when I used to watch on a tiny kitchen television with a cup of tea in my hand. Back then, the threats felt big but contained. Now they feel personal and interconnected in ways that mirror real life a little more closely. The new shocks keep rolling in, and each one feels earned because the characters have history with each other. Carly's disappearance is not happening in a vacuum. It is the direct consequence of what Cassius started with Jocelyn, and Sidwell's belief that the same man is responsible is the thread that could unravel the whole mess. I find myself wondering out loud sometimes whether Cassius's plan was ever as airtight as he thought, or whether his obsession blinded him to the cracks that are now widening by the hour. Either way, the explosion of that plan is giving us some of the most gripping television the show has offered in ages, and I cannot wait to see how the pieces fall into place. This shared captivity is causing one of the most powerful adjustments we have seen in a long time. Jocelyn, who has always been so resilient, is now filled with a fierce new desire for release, a longing for freedom that goes beyond simply getting away. She is scanning every corner, testing every weakness, and that hunger for escape is proving to be one of the most explosive developments the show has delivered lately. I love how it feels different from the original rescue arcs I remember from years past. Back then, escape often came from outside help or a lucky break. Here, Jocelyn's inner strength is driving the momentum, and it shows how much she has grown. Her determination is not reckless, it is focused, almost strategic, and it makes me root for her with every beat of my heart. Watching her channel that need into something hopeful amid the fear reminds me why I have stayed loyal to these characters through every twist and turn. It is the kind of emotional layering that keeps General Hospital feeling fresh even after all these decades. At the same time, this situation is quietly destroying Cassius's carefully built plan, and I cannot help but feel a quiet satisfaction in seeing it unravel. His obsession, which once seemed so controlled, is now spiraling in ways that prove just how dangerous his new fixation has become. What started as a calculated move has turned into something chaotic, and the very fact that he holds both Carly and Jocelyn together is becoming the crack that could bring the whole scheme tumbling down. Sidwell was onto something when he first connected Cassius to Carly's vanishing right after Jocelyn's ordeal, and now the evidence is piling up in every scene. I have my own little theory here, one that might not line up exactly with where the writers are heading, but I believe Cassius underestimated the power of that mother-daughter connection. Instead of breaking them, he has united them in a way that threatens to expose every flaw in his thinking. His obsession is no longer a tool, it is becoming his undoing, and that shift feels so satisfying to watch after all the pain he has caused. The story keeps building this sense of heat and anticipation that makes each episode feel essential. Will Jocelyn find the opening she is so desperately seeking? How will Carly's experience and quiet courage play into their joint fight for freedom? And how far will Cassius go when he realizes his plans are crumbling because of the very obsession he cannot control? These questions keep circling in my mind long after the credits roll, and that is exactly what I have always loved about this show. It never lets the tension fade. It just keeps layering new emotions and revelations until you cannot look away. After 40-plus years of tuning in, I still find myself amazed at how the writers can take familiar faces and put them in situations that feel brand new and utterly compelling.